Hey guys, how's it going? Rod here again, and today I'll be talking about black magic and persuasive manipulation and how they are one and the same, its effects on yourself, the people you know, and the world at large, or at least how to recognize the effects. I'm not really going to go into how it affects, because I think once I'm done, that'll be self-evident. So obviously we're not talking a traditional voodoo, hexes, curses, that sort of black magic. This is different, but it essentially works the same way, and let me break it down for you. So magic, Crowley defines as the art and science of affecting change through will. Think that's what it is. Now, black magic is doing that shit to somebody else without their permission. Now, imagine you could hijack someone's mind. Actually, let me backpedal. I've tried to do this video about 3 or 4 times, so I'm just gonna try and do it now. If I fuck up, sorry. So yeah, essentially, when we break it all down, you are creating your reality every day. The process through that happens, one could call magic. I believe magic is completely interwoven in every aspect of your life. So the very act of you being out in the world, affecting change in itself is a magical thing. And then obviously the type of magic sort of that pagans and occultists are more interested in is a little more subtle, a little more far-reaching. But like I was saying, you create your reality, and that reality is based on your beliefs about the world and what may happen, and also the beliefs about yourself as well as a person. So imagine you could hijack someone's mind and get them to believe various things, possibly about themselves, possibly about the world itself. And then you plant that little seed, and through their beliefs, they create that very reality that prior to them having those beliefs never existed before. Now, we could obviously sort of just stop right there, and there's plenty of psychological reasons this could be the case. Obviously, if you believe things, you'll look for things that will support your opinions in that belief. But I think it's a little more. When you believe, when you create your reality, it's beyond just psychological trips and you being a little more open to various opportunities. I think anyone who has worked with magic or in those sorts of occultic worlds realizes that it doesn't just stop there. Reality itself actually will reorganize to fulfill what you think you know about the world. And I know that's kind of complex, but hopefully you get what I'm saying. But if someone else is controlling those thoughts, that's when the trouble happens. So on an individual level, you can have some sort of dysfunctional child-parent relation. Husband could be doing it to a wife or vice versa. And obviously, in time, you can slowly destroy a person that way. Now, it doesn't just happen to individuals though. It happens to groups as well. Every night they turn on 6 o'clock, there's the news, and it tells them what they believe to be truth about the world, and also what they believe to be important about the world. And they do this in a way that it's actually quite artful in how they do it. There's a number of ways. They will obviously occasionally report a reality that doesn't exist at all. They may not report something that has happened, and therefore, if people don't know about it effectively, it just never happened. They can put a particular spin or a lens on a story. They can use a story to distract you. Smart people know that if a magician's pulling a trick, it's not the hand that's moving you should be watching. It's this one over here where the coin is. And the final way they do it, and I think not a lot of people are aware of this, what's known as preconditioning. And that is almost a sustained effort over time to make your mind more receptive to particular information, or to react a particular way if you hear some information. Donald Trump is the perfect example of that. You just mention his name in certain circles and the reaction will be visceral. That is that's a preconditioned response. They have been told that opinion by the media. And yeah, they're sold this reality, or they led to believe a reality via a number of, clever persuasive techniques, and that reality that exists in here actually becomes their reality itself. So what can we do about it? There's a number of things. The very first thing is to always remember, once again, you create your own reality. Only you. So it's what you believe about the world that really matters. No one has more control over your world than you do. Second way of getting around it, and I caveat that obviously by saying that we share this reality with a number of we share this world with a number of conscious, billions of consciousness, and everyone has their own particular reality. Most of the time they kind of line up, and that's the world you see around us now. But like I said, no one can control your reality more than you. Bit of a cheesy example, but you can look at life as a river, and all of this bullshit that people are sold and you see the masses believing and get up to, that's the currents. They're the currents that push you around, and you don't really have a choice. You have to go with the rest of society. But your body is the boat on which you travel that river. And if you're smart, if you're a little attuned to the winds, you've maintained your boat well, personal health is very important, and you get a little bit of knowledge behind you, you can steer that boat anywhere you want on that river. You can cut straight across that current. You can even travel faster than the wind itself. So, you may not be able to stop the current. You may never quite be able to sail against it, but you can still use that current to get you exactly where you want to go. Second way of doing it is just remembering that the media is bullshit. And it's not just bullshit though, it's reliably bullshit. So the more important a story is, the more likely that story is to be bullshit. So, you know, they do some reporting on sports, some puppy story. Yeah, that happened. If it's something political, something about vaccinations or COVID, you can be assured that something happened to the person in that story, probably at the place they say it happened. But all those other details, they just fill that in. And they fill that in because they have an agenda they want to fulfill. The best way, and one of the funnest and most interesting ways, is to learn these persuasion techniques yourself. Let me give you a story here to do with my kids, and it should illustrate everything I'm trying to say here. So, I was actually telling my kids, you know, they were commenting on some story on the news, and I said, I can't even remember what it is, I'm sorry. I said, careful, that's bullshit, and this is the reason why. And they're like, yeah, Dad, whatever. And I was like, no, this is how they work. You got to watch this stuff. And they're like, whatever. And I was like, okay, watch this. And then I suddenly just changed my composure, and I said to my eldest, okay, Ruby, I need you to help me rake the entire bottom of the garden tomorrow. It really helped me out. And as you can imagine, she was like, oh, Dad, oh, God, I can't believe it. And I said, okay, look, don't worry about that, but I needed to clean up. But instead, maybe we could just clean up this mess right here. Now, this had been a mess that I'd been asking them to clean up all morning. And I'd been getting just as many moans and complaints as when I then said that they're going to have to help me clean that garden, the entire garden, and we got a big garden. And then, as soon as I said, okay, how about we just clean up this then? They're like, yeah, I'll do it now. And then I said to them, do you see what just happened there? And they stopped for a second, and they're like, oh. And it was amazing. And that just goes to show you one of the many persuasion techniques that the media use. There, I contrasted the negative behavior. I gave them two options. If I just come out with that first one, it would have just been nothing but bitching and moaning. But I contrasted that. Something that was even worse. They jumped like this. So yeah, learning the techniques of persuasion, and I'm not just talking about this bullshit shit you see on YouTube, you know, 10 techniques to improve your charisma, 7 things that'll make people hate you. They're actually kind of useful, but I'm talking about learning from the experts. So there's 2 books that I actually recommend, and I don't own either of them in hard copy form. I've got them in audiobook. Both of them are by the godfather of persuasion himself, Dr. Robert Cialdini. His first book is called Influence, and it was published back in the 80s. And essentially, he went undercover, used car salesmen, insurance brokers, even police interviews, all these places where persuasion matters, and he learned all that techniques, brought them down to their base, you know, what is the mechanism that works here, and then translated them. He has another book called Persuasion, and I think that was just released just last year, actually, and that one's just as interesting. That is all about how you can set the scenes for things in various ways that make what you want to then, you know, ask a person, or what am I trying to say, far more likely to happen. So, for example, and I was teaching this to the kids as well. I said, try this on your mum. And the research says that women who are shown cute, fluffy kitten videos just before their kids ask for something. What am I trying to say? No. If a kid shows their mum a cute, so if you've got any kids watching this, try it on your mum. If you as a child show your mother a cute kitten video just before you ask for something, you will get you're 60% much more likely to get exactly what you asked for. Other examples they go through in this book, and they're all quite fascinating. They tried one technique where they had some handsome, good-looking bloke randomly asking women for their phone number. He had a hit rate of maybe about 10 or 15%. And you got to keep in mind, this guy, you know, he was, for a guy, pretty good looking. So I hear. I haven't seen his picture. But if he asked the women in one particular place for their phone number, his success rate nearly doubled. Now, where do you think that place would be? In front of a flower shop, because they were preconditioned for romance before this guy came into their life and asked them for their phone number. Other examples, and this is kind of more on the manipulation level. One of the experiments they did, there was a photocopier and a great big line for it, and they got one of their researchers to just the first batch of people, he just said, "Can I cut in line here?" And they measured the success rate. I think he got about 30. Then with the second group, they did something else. "Can I cut in the line, please? Because." And then they gave a reason. And for some reason, if there is a reason there, you're far more likely to actually say yes. So his success rate went from 30-something% to about 76%. And the funny thing was, it didn't even matter what that reason was. So, you know, I'm running late. One of the reasons was, "Can I please cut in line because I need to make some copies?" Which is, of course, what everyone in that line was to do. And it still got just as much success as any other legitimate reason. Final study I'll mention, which is quite interesting. They got an individual in a room with a researcher, and in those rooms with the researcher, there's three different scenarios. There was obviously what's it called, the people with had nothing done to them, you know, the baseline, I've forgotten the word. Then in the second room there was a picture, and in that picture there was two people standing far apart. Then in the third room there was another picture, and it was those same two people, but they were standing right next to each other, and they obviously looked like they knew, you know, due to their posture and everything, they knew each other, they liked each other. I think they were hugging, something like that. Now, the subjects in this room, the researchers, when they were carrying out, what they did in this experiment was they had each subject in the rooms, and the researcher randomly, accidentally dropped all his papers and equipment that he was carrying. In the, not, you know, obviously I'm not going to talk about it. In the room where the people were standing far apart, I think 25% of the time the subjects randomly just upped and went to help the researcher pick his shit up. Now, in the room where the two subjects was right next to each other, when the researcher accidentally dropped all his stuff, the subjects were nearly 3 times, I think it was 70, I can't remember the number, they were 3 times more likely to just randomly up and help that researcher pick all his stuff up. Which, you know, that's quite interesting. You know, what you've got there is just a painting in a background, preconditioning these people for a certain particular type of behavior. And if you've been studying this stuff for a while, that won't actually blow your mind too much. But here's the thing that will make your jaw drop. The age of those subjects that they were testing to see if they'd randomly help the researchers were 18 months old. They were babies. And this this shows you how ingrained all this stuff is in your mind, and you really don't have any idea at all. So yeah, there are a few tricks you can use, or tricks to look out for rather. Definitely next time, I mean, I watch the news, I keep, you know, you get a lot of people, and I totally understand, who just avoid the news like the plague. I watch it avidly, specifically to see if I can work out what they're up to. And I've learned a lot doing it. What else? Yeah. Think that's about it. I don't think there's a lot more I can really add. Like I said, I want to emphasize that these realities that are being planted in people are being created. But you're still in complete control of your own reality. So never forget that. And after all this, you're probably wondering if this video itself is actually a persuasive manipulation on my behalf to make you come over to my point of view. Now notice that you weren't actually thinking that at all until I told you that you were. Now notice how silly that first statement was, because every form of communication is a form of persuasion, but I just made you feel manipulated by saying that. Now you're probably wondering what I'm going to trick you with next. But because I called out your thought there, not only do I look like I know what I'm talking about even more, but I suddenly appear a little more trustworthy than I was before. Finally, you're probably wondering, did I guess what you were thinking? Or did I just tell you what you were thinking and then told you I guessed it right? So you see how this all works. You see how easy it is to control someone's mind, and you see how easy it is for someone to control your mind. Hopefully you've learned a little bit from this. All the best, and I'll see you next time.